I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Here we go at Oakmont. Let's start with the course. What do we know about this course? How long is the rough, and does course history come into effect for you this week?
The U.S. Open has always been billed as the most difficult test of golf there is on the planet. And I tell you what, it's often labeled as the most difficult golf course in the world is Oakmont.
Game time decisions. Only on Sport.
Hey everybody, welcome in. This is Game Time Decisions, a special extended Game Time Decisions. That's right, rather than the normal 90 minutes, we got you for a full 2 hours, taking you up until 8:30 Eastern tip-off, roughly anyway. You know how those nationally televised network games go. But tip-off of the NBA Finals, Game 5. The not a literal must-win by any stretch, but certainly could have the desperation, the feel of a must-win with both the Oklahoma City Thunder at home and the Indiana Pacers on the road, vying for that 3-2 series advantage in the NBA Finals to head back to Indy with an opportunity to close things out in just a couple of days. I am Adam Kaufman, and for Kevin Walsh, great to have you here with us. We have a jam-packed show. Many guests will join us over the course of the next 90 minutes in particular, and then the final half hour of the program. It will be me with Coach James Young, the two of us exclusively during that 30-minute window, breaking down all things that you need to know for this NBA Finals game. And let's start with this game, because though there is a baseball slate, it's a light slate, and there's, of course, no hockey, no Stanley Cup final contest tonight. That's tomorrow when that series will continue, and the Panthers trying to wipe away the Edmonton Oilers for the second straight year. We don't even have anything of the WNBA tonight. It is baseball and it is basketball. And on the diamond, again, lighter slate, some heavy favorites, not as massive as they were yesterday on that travel day, but we will explore some of my favorite spots and certainly preview these contests throughout this show. They will get underway coming up in the next little bit as well, which will be good. But basketball's the center of attention, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, who obviously out of a certain level of desperation were able to get off the mat and overcome a 10-point deficit, overcome only making 3 3-pointers the entire contest there in Game 4 in Indy, were able to basically reverse what we saw in Game 3, right? If you watch these two games, we saw the Thunder really kind of melt down in the second half of the fourth quarter of Game 3, only scored 18 points in that quarter, ultimately blew a lead, lost to the Pacers. That allowed Indy to go up 2-1, and then a reversal of fortune in Game 4, where it was the Pacers who led late there in the fourth quarter, led by only about 4 points, but in the closing minutes before ultimately some big shot making out of the MVP, regular season and Western Conference Finals, and perhaps soon to be the NBA Finals as well. SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he put on his most valuable player performance and had 15 fourth quarter points, finished with 35 on the game, just barely squeaked by his over for anyone that invested in that over 33.5, 34.5, depending on where you got it, obviously. But they were big, they were massive, they were huge. They forced turnovers, missed free throws, Again, limited transition opportunities, did what had to be done. And OKC this time around limited the Pacers to sub 20 points. Only about 17 there in that fourth quarter with some missed free throws down the stretch. And so what should we expect here in game 5 tonight? That is really kind of the million-dollar question of what we've been talking about in recent days. I was with Brady Cannon throughout the weekend. We got into this game quite a bit. 9.5-point favorites, the Thunder, and it's an interesting number, interesting for multiple reasons. One, that it hasn't climbed to 10. It opened at 9. It's gotten a 9.5. There are no 10s out there that I have seen to this point. This is a situation where it feels like every article you read, every person you talk to, your head may even go to Indiana. I got to take the Pacers with the points. I got to take the Pacers with the points. Well, the money is going toward OKC, which is why, again, this number has climbed as it has, obviously. You know, people are betting the Thunder, who, generally speaking, you can understand it in part. Just to give you some numbers, Thunder, of course, are fresh off covering on the spread or against the spread on the road for the very first time this postseason. 1-8. It is not pretty, but 9-2 straight up, 8-3 against the spread when playing at home in these playoffs, with a massive differential of plus 236 in those 11 games. The Thunder, however, just worthy of note, 1-4 straight up and against the spread when tied in a playoff series under Mark Daigneault, the head coach. The Pacers, 5-0 straight up and against the spread off a loss in these playoffs, 7-3 on the road. So again, it's part of why you see people, again, not necessarily the public, but the sharp side sort of leaning into all things Indiana. The way I want to approach it, and I'm curious what our panel of guests are going to say over the course of the show, and we'll get perspectives from multiple people, see if I'm on an island here. I don't want to bet either one. That doesn't mean I'm staying out of it. It's just I think there is going to be a better live betting opportunity, or a better way to approach this, perhaps even in the derivative market. For instance, I don't want to lay 9.5 points with Oklahoma City. Do I think it's entirely possible OKC wins by margin, wins by 15 plus points? Absolutely, that is plausible. I wouldn't want to bet against it. It's why I don't want to take the Pacers with the points either. I would get into, or I could support anyway, Oklahoma City minus 3.5 in the opening quarter, or minus 5.5 even in the opening half. Figure the Thunder are ahead, not necessarily dominant, but ahead by enough, especially in that first quarter at home, feeding off the energy of the crowd. Again, knowing how important this game is, wanting to go up 3-2, knowing that you have to go on the road next, regardless of the outcome here in this one. You want to be the one in control of your own destiny. Not to say that isn't true of the Pacers as well, but I do think there can be an element of home court advantage actually meaning something in the early stages of this game. Now, does it matter, though? For the life of the contest, I'm not so sure, which is why I don't want to lay it with OKC, but I don't think the number is quite big enough for Indiana at the plus 9.5. My belief, and this is correlated to what I just told you about the first quarter and how I feel like the Thunder are going to start this game, I think you're going to get a better number. I think you're going to get a better opportunity in-game to back Indiana. It's exactly what I want to wait and do. If Oklahoma City goes up early on, I mean even very early on, let's say they get off to a, making it up, 10-2 start, right? Pacers can erase an 8-point deficit in a blink. It's not indicative of how the game is going to go. But if OKC jumps out to a 10-2 start, you're going to see that number climb. 9.5 is going to become maybe 14.5, 15.5. Maybe the Thunder can open up enough of a lead it gets to 16, 17.5, something like that. That's my buy point. That's when I want to get in on Indiana, because I do think the Pacers are going to be in this toward the end, or at least mid-fourth quarter. They're going to put up a fight. They're not going to be on the wrong side of a blowout. Again, would it shock me? No. But do I believe it's going to happen? I don't. I think Indiana hangs around. I don't think they win. If you want to go money line parlay with Oklahoma City, pair them up with a heavy favorite on the diamond or a prop within this game, fully support that. Talking about Major League Baseball here, though, because we do have some games that are coming up. And the first one, there are a couple, I suppose, but the first one that, it's going to get underway in just a few minutes here that catches my eye, Philadelphia and Miami. I just don't understand this line, and shop it around. You see Philadelphia at minus 112. You can get minus 110s out there as well, depending again on where you look. I realize it's Mick Abel on the mound for Philly. I realize it's Philadelphia on the road. It's also Sandy Alcantara on the other side, who has an ERA approaching 8 here this season and has been dreadful. Now, you could look at it, and this would be fair, and say, yeah, Kauf, I don't know, a couple of games here this month, he's been better. He's got a 1.5 ERA in 2 starts in June. Fine. I get it. That just means we're getting a better number on Philadelphia. I take Philly. I would take Philly on the run line. I would jump on the first 5 for sure for Philadelphia. Full game as well, pair them with some different spots. We can explore some baseball and basketball talk with the versatile Danny Burke from Odd Shopper when he joins us next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Hopefully we'll prove that to you over the course of the next couple hours. Hanging out here with us, talking NBA Finals, Major League Baseball, who knows what else we will wedge in here. But it's going to be a lot of finals talk, obviously, with Game 5 tonight in Oklahoma City between the Thunder and the Pacers. But one quick note from the Diamond. We'll do more, especially on that Rafael Devers trade that I have not even mentioned here so far in this program. Talked about it extensively last night with Brady Cannon on In-Game Live Game Day. We'll talk a little bit more about Devers' move from Boston to San Francisco in a little bit. But on the Diamond, we do have one game that is underway, and that is Philadelphia, who I was talking about just prior to the break, in Miami. I said first 5 for Philly. I said full game for Philly. I said run line for Philly. We're off to a good start. Trey Turner, a leadoff homer against Sandy Alcantara and the Phillies, who I just, again, we'll see how the game plays out, but I still do not even understand that -110 pick'em pregame line for Philadelphia, who to me is a much better club than this Miami squad. coming in. But again, it's 1-0, and the Phillies with one down, man on second, still batting. We'll see where it goes. But let's welcome in a guy that you just snuck a peek at, Danny Burke from Odd Shopper and Stokastic. He is on Twitter at Danny Burke and the number 5, here to help us out, talking through the NBA Finals and a little bit from the Diamond as well. Danny, how are you, bud?
Doing good, Adam. Always happy to be on here with you, my man, and always happy to have an NBA game to look forward to. Don't know how many more we'll have left of it, but yeah, excited nonetheless. So very much looking forward to the action tonight.
Well, it's either 2 or 3. Why don't we start right there? It's a best of 3 right now with Oklahoma City holding home court advantage, and obviously this series tied up. Do you think it actually ends in 2? Does the winner tonight close things out in Game 6, or do you think we go the distance?
If the Thunder win tonight, I feel pretty, well, I wouldn't say pretty confident, but I'd feel a bit more confident in them actually winning this series in 7. Now, if the Pacers somehow pull off a win tonight, I'd be pretty terrified, as would anybody else who would have any kind of investment on the Thunder. Not that I do, but just anybody in general, that then Indiana would close things out in Game 6. Would it be shocking for Oklahoma City to win 3 in a row? No, it wouldn't, but we've seen what this Indiana team is capable of, and assuming they lose tonight, then going back home, I mean, their back's against the wall. They're going to give you everything they absolutely have. So I would probably still give a slight edge to the Pacers there and think that this thing could go 7 games. But when all said and done, I mean, look, Adam, I got complete confidence in OKC to win this one at home and then to defend home court if it gets there in Game 7 anyways. I mean, that first game that Indiana won is, I don't want to say a fluke, but it was just an absolute aberration to what we've seen with the numbers that were put up from Indiana. I mean, they had 25 turnovers. They come back in heroic fashion. It was just absolutely ridiculous. So incredibly fortunate for them to get away with winning that game. And then in Game 2, you more so saw what that Oklahoma City team is capable of at home. All right, Indiana's got the mojo, gets Game 3 under their belt, but then Game 4, a must-win game, you could argue, for the Oklahoma City Thunder, because if they can't win on the road, then they're really in trouble, and they pull their weight. So almost double-digit favorites tonight. I expect them to play toward that number and think they'll get the job done and then eventually win it still.
Let's build off of that, Danny, because there's confidence in OKC. There's also cockiness in OKC. I'm confident. I think the Thunder will win this game, and I like them on the money line. I don't necessarily want to lay minus 400, but I'd pair them with something that I like to get a better number. Cockiness is saying they're going to win by margin. They're going to win this thing by double figures. You know, do you lean that way if forced to play it, or would you just, prefer to sit back and wait for an in-game number?
Yeah, usually when it's a higher spread, I'd prefer to wait for that in-game spot. But if I had to play it pre-flop, I think there's a couple different ways to approach it. I would want to lay the 9.5, wherever you're getting the best number available to with Oklahoma City if I had to choose a pre-flop for the full game right now. I think they respond in a huge way, and I think they start early and often, and they know that. They can't dig a hole, and they got to get that momentum swinging in their way immediately, especially building off a huge win in Game 4. I think another approach would be to look at the first half, though that number's set pretty appropriately around that 5.5 mark. So, I mean, it's a little steeper, but I'd still gravitate toward them there. What I'd probably prefer to play as opposed to the first half would be maybe a team total with Oklahoma City. I was seeing it hover around 117. Now, we've seen them start slow in the past, and I think Game 2 is kind of where this happened, where the full game total just started off horrendously, and then these teams picked it up simultaneously and ended up getting it over there, even with a little bit of garbage time in half number 2. And that was to get it to like over 228.5. Now, because of my thinking, Adam, of that Oklahoma City is the team that I would rather choose to laying that big number, I don't necessarily want to count on Indiana to produce offensively for the full game total. So that's why I would just singularly look at Oklahoma City's individual team total over 117, thinking that they're going to respond, like I said, early and often. And if they get that 3-point range going, which has been a hindrance for them really all year, I mean, not necessarily in a negative way, it's just not where they've been accustomed to shooting. But if they can get that going, then it's a really difficult team to stop, as we very well know. And they've had the best defense leading up into the series, so that could obviously come alive as well, especially in front of the home crowd. And you still really haven't seen consistency with a guy like Chet Holmgren, who, if he can get going right away, then that's going to be a recipe, all of those things included, for this Oklahoma City team to just pull away and dominate and probably get over that team total spot of 117.
That game, too, that you mentioned, Danny, is the only game that we have seen the over, and as you alluded to, just barely. 3 out of the 4 in this series have gone under the total in what a lot of people, including me, thought was going to be a high-scoring series. And as a result, we've seen the total plummet. You know, it was 229.5, 230.5 at points in this series. Now we are looking at 223.5, some 224s on the nose out there right now. Would you dare go under that number, especially since you're talking about going over on OKC?
I probably wouldn't, just because, again, Oklahoma City, if they're living up to my expectations and then some, they may be able to do enough to control this game to get toward the over, where Indiana just gets by, but obviously the Thunder are doing the heavy lifting. So I'm not too tempted to back the under here, and certainly don't want to sweat that out. I think that would be more of an appealing case heading back into Indiana for the next game. But here with Oklahoma City at home, where they play their best ball, in Indiana, we still know, with some capable scores at least, and can really push that tempo going at any point. Yeah, it's probably not an under game for me, especially buying it at its lowest spot.
We have Danny Burke, a betting analyst over with Odd Chopper and Stochastic, hanging out here with us on Game Time Decisions. We're not done with Danny. We're coming on back a little bit more on the NBA. Big game tonight and some baseball as well.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say I'd buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but yeah, it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We're back with from Odd Chopper talking about the NBA Finals. We'll get to Major League. Well, one quick baseball note. I didn't have time earlier. I went on and on about the Phillies. Didn't have an opportunity to tell you how much I like the Nationals tonight in their spot at home against the Colorado Rockies. And it's probably best that I didn't, because Colorado top 1 up 2-0. Hunter Goodman, a 2-run homer. Now, I think this thing is far from over, obviously. But the Nats, who entered this game as heavy favorites, right around -175, are now trailing in this one 2-0. And just to very quickly check the live odds if you wanted to invest in Washington here at this point, you can get in at, well, of course, everything is locked up. So I'll let you know when it unlocks. Philadelphia is up 1-0, though, in Miami. +124 for the Nats. So plus money on Washington down by 2 at home against Colorado, still in the first inning, and they haven't even batted yet. That's an interesting spot to jump in. If you liked Washington before, I would have no problem jumping in on the Nats right now. But Danny is here with us, and we're just talking off the air, Danny, a little bit about the prop market here in the NBA Finals. And, people want to talk about SGA, obviously, Halliburton, Siakam. One thing that I've, been thinking about, reading about a little bit more lately, how about point forward Jalen Williams? What he is able to do, obviously, scoring the basketball and the expectation that he gets in the vicinity, if not exceeds 20 points. That's the one thing, but the usage has been crazy the last two games for J-Dub, up over 30% each of those two games. Do you like his assists over?
So it's funny. I mean, and you're familiar with the product that we have at OddShopper. One of the bets popping up right now actually are showing a slight edge to his under 5.5 assists. Now, it is a steeper price at about minus $140, but again, it all falls in line with what type of game flow are we going to see from him? Will he be more of the conductor, more of the scorer, more aggression from him like we have seen in a couple of these spots? Or is this going to be the game where SGA just solely takes over, and in these crucial moments, Jay Williams just takes that back seat? I think he's in a really good groove right now to where I would probably gravitate toward him staying under. Now, do I want to play it? Am I going to? Probably not, just because I think it is a steeper price, and I know that there is some value on that. But, out of the props that I have played tonight, not one of my favorite ones to seek out. I think, and I know that you dabble with it, and that I do in terms of DFS and someone who can offer value in the captain spot. I mean, Jalen Williams is a great position right there outside of an SGA for someone who's really getting in that groove and offering a little bit of a cheaper price and can get the usage rates up everywhere with the rebounding, with the passing, as long as he's kind of around that 5 spot and he can get 22 plus points. This has been a really quality player to look at. And then obviously that kind of coincides with his points, rebounds, and assist props. So yeah, this is the guy that the Thunder have needed in order to win this championship and any championship. You need that secondary star to be consistent, and they're finally seeing it out of Williams. And I think even a step further, you need it out of a guy like Chet Holmgren, Adam. And, that's a prop that I actually dabbled with tonight, over 15.5 points. Now, I know he's gone over it a couple times, been a bit more volatile this series than what we've been accustomed to throughout this playoff run from Oklahoma City. But that's a testament to this Indiana team, especially the bigs that they present and what they've been able to do defensively against him. But again, in order, if it all falls in line to kind of go with the spread that I think that they have a good chance of covering, winning this game in impressive fashion. I mean, Chet's got to step up, get back to that 18, 20-point performance. And the number has been around 15.5 for a majority of this series. And I think he's due for a good bounce back here. And it's a good price to look at in a lower spot than it should be, in my opinion. So I like him over 15 in the hook.
Danny, we only got you for a little bit longer. Let's get into some baseball, specifically the Rafael Devers trade. Again, going from Boston to San Francisco shocked a lot of people, especially around Boston, but really the baseball world, simply because the Red Sox have played as well as they have lately and sit, right there in position for a wild card playoff spot. Obviously, there's a lot of season left, but in particular, the Giants, who are going for it right now. What does the Devers acquisition do to how you view this San Francisco team?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like you said. They're clearly going for it, and they've shocked a lot of people, myself included, with how they've performed thus far. The bullpen's outstanding. The starting pitching is really good, and now it's just you needed more pieces to the offense, and they added one early, and that's what was so perplexing about Boston. Like you're alluding to, it's like you're finally getting in this hot streak. Are you just trying to sell high on Devers? I feel like you could have waited a little bit longer and gotten better talent out of it. I don't know, man. I mean, if I were a Red Sox fan like you, I'd be a bit shocked and probably slightly disappointed. And objectively speaking, that's how I imagine everybody feels. But good for the Giants. I think obviously they did their part there, and it's going to end up being great for them in the long run.
Could be a fire sale coming for the Red Sox. We'll see what they do with this money after San Francisco absorbed that whole contract. Danny Burke, again, analyst over at OddShopper, Stochastic as well. Get him on Twitter at Danny Burke and the number 5. Danny, thanks, bud. Win some bets tonight.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll fall off. He'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say I'd buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but yeah, it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Hour 2, Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid, SportsGrid Radio, SportsGrid TV, wherever you are finding us, even on social media. We greatly appreciate you. I am Adam Kaufman. Let us welcome in our next guest to the program to talk exclusively baseball for the next little bit, Rob Donaldson, who is, of course, an Underdog partner, a professional handicapper. You can get him on Twitter at RobDFB. Rob, good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you too, Adam. I'm glad to see you're holding up after the Devers trade. And, the Red Sox are coming off a sweep of the Yankees. So it was a pretty good weekend overall for you. And then maybe a little bit of a toss-up weekend at the back end.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone that is familiar either with the show Arrested Development or just the gif that you sometimes see on social media of, David Cross, Tobias Funke crying in the shower, holding the bar of soap, and he's got the, jorts on, and he's just completely bawling his eyes out. That was me earlier, but I'm coping. I'm getting over it just a little bit. Right now, it's Day of Dingers. Philadelphia is up 1-0 on a Trey Turner leadoff homer. That game is in Miami, only top 2. And Colorado, of all teams, coming off a rare win yesterday against Atlanta as a heavy, nearly plus 300 dog, up 2-0 on a Hunter Goodman homer. That game is in Washington at the end of 1, so the Rockies coming up to bat here in just a little bit. Before we get to some of the games in front of us, did you have a feel on either of these?
In that Phillies-Marlins game, I actually gravitated towards kind of almost targeting Mick Abel because he is a guy right now with a really nice-looking surface-level ERA, but through 3 starts, he has been getting absolutely lit up with some hard contact. Almost kind of reminds me of like a Bryce Elder from Atlanta the past couple years where good ERA numbers, but then all of a sudden it kind of fades off near the back end of the season. And I think Mick Abel is kind of going that direction. So I took a shot with actually Jesus Sanchez to have a nice little night here. Over 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs. We'll see how that plays out. But in the Colorado-Washington game, I'm actually on that under of 9 runs. So hopefully things cool off for that Rockies offense here in the back half.
We got the Yankees and Angels starting here in just a couple of minutes in the Bronx. This is an interesting one because of all the heavy favorites today, for me anyway, the Yankees are kind of the one that I trust the least, and that's not even with my Boston bias. I'll back New York if it feels like the right spot. I just, with this pitching matchup of Schmidt against Soriano, I feel like they're fairly comparable, and, you're getting the edge, obviously, with the game being in New York, but I don't know, to lay in the vicinity of minus 200, I think there are other ways to attack this game, which is exactly what you've done.
Yeah, and kind of along the lines of you, I thought that the Yankees offense could really pick up in this game, but did I want to go in there and just have a lineup battle and hope that the Yankees can cover a pretty crazy run line that's even juiced to the -1.5? Probably not. So I ended up taking an over of 4.5 team total runs on the Yankee side of things. They're getting Giancarlo Stanton back in the lineup. What that actually ends up meaning, if anything, but feel like sometimes when you're coming off a series where you only score 4 runs against a division rival, especially a rival like the Red Sox and Yankees, I think your offense is going to be due for a little bit of that positive regression in the next series. And luckily, they are kind of drawing the Angels here at the perfect time.
For all the NL West talk over the last, not even 24 hours surrounding Rafael Devers obviously going to San Francisco, there are a couple other pretty good teams that are matching up. The LA Dodgers, the defending champs, and the San Diego Padres, who do sit right now 3 games behind the Dodgers in that division. They are battling in LA tonight, and the most notable thing about this game, obviously, is that Shohei Ohtani, the reigning MVP, is going to pitch for the first time since 2023, albeit in kind of an opener status. We don't know, will we see him 1 innings, 2 innings? What's the pitch count going to be? Do we just go under on 1.5 strikeouts, as sweaty and dangerous as that feels? How do you feel about Shohei taking the mound again, and just, the Padres as dogs in this situation?
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do is target the pitchers coming off of, an absence of pitching. Usually it's an IL stretch, and I guess technically to an extent that applies to Shohei Ohtani, but at the same time, anytime you have that kind of layoff as a pitcher, there is a ramp up period, and because he's such a good hitter, they didn't really give him a chance to go through the minor league ramp up sessions and get those innings under his belt. So he's going into this game basically running on those simulations that you run, on your off days. And I don't think that's going to be very conducive to success against the Padres lineup that's actually starting to pick it up well in terms of their offensive production. And so to your point, we might not even see Shohei Ohtani go more than 2 or 3 innings tonight. And even if he does, I think he's actually going to get pretty roughed up in his first start back in a long layoff. So give me the Padres at +130 in that +140 range. I think Dylan Cease could actually have the night in terms of the starting pitchers.
Rob, the books seem to have adjusted to Sacramento at this point, and you wondered how long that was going to take, but now we see a 10.5 run total in this game between the Athletics and the Astros. Is the over compelling to you, though? Because looking at public splits, it looks like people are riding that under, feeling like that number's just a little too high.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards that under, but I don't love either side of that total because the A's bullpen is the ultimate wild card. At the start of the year, they were very decent, league average, and could eat up, 3-4 innings, and you'd feel like somewhat reasonably confident that they wouldn't just get bludgeoned. And now, ever since, I don't know, the turn into May, they have been absolutely abysmal, and I have no trust left in the A's bullpen. So they could actually give up the 10 runs just on their own, and Mitch Spence and Gusto aren't necessarily the most kind of trustworthy starting pitchers to roll out there either. So I would actually say probably lean towards that over, but I really don't love either side of the coin in that total department there.
I'll tell you, not that I think that highly of Gusto, but I feel badly for the people that hammered the total when they thought that Lance McCullers was going to be starting this game, because
right.
that you would have felt a little bit better about the over versus what we've got right now. Maybe it'll hit. Another one a little bit later on. My Red Sox, who you mentioned before, fresh off dealing Rafael Devers, but they've been hot. Wins out of 8 of 10. 5 of 6 against the Yankees specifically. Again, they've put themselves in a position to make the playoffs. If they can continue to play at the level they're playing, there's a whole lot of season left, of course. They are in Seattle. Now, look, removing bias, I like Seattle tonight. I think it's a great situation for Gilbert. He's certainly a better pitcher than Giolito is. I would rather tackle the full game for Seattle, just knowing that even if Giolito does pitch well, Boston's bullpen absolutely blows. But then there's the, sort of the adjacent fallen hero theory, right? Like teams responding to a dramatic change within that locker room, clubhouse in this case. Do we think the Red Sox are plus money or the play just because they kind of rally as a unit together around Devers being gone, knowing someone or multiple people in the aggregate need to step up?
Yeah, and sometimes when you're coming off of a sweep, especially against a division rival or just a team in your division, you can fall flat on your face in that next series. So that gives me pause on kind of wanting to take that Red Sox angle there. And also, you don't really know how you don't really know, I guess, how like the lineup is going to respond to with when you do remove a guy like Devers and there's so much kind of notoriety behind it, or people trying to publicize every single thing now that the Red Sox do. Now, what I think you can actually kind of play into here is a little bit of an under. Obviously, T-Mobile is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, and just unders in general are great play. And now you're removing one of those kind of key pieces to that total.
Yeah, it would take you about 10 seconds on social media to see what a smear campaign Red Sox media is already, on behalf of ownership, front office, whatever, doled out against Rafael Devers. Might be the worst teammate that has ever walked the planet, if you read what is out there right now. Rob Donaldson, again, on Twitter, Rob DFB. Thanks, man.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple 18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
What's up? Welcome back. Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. We go from Rob Donaldson talking baseball to our pal, host and analyst here on SportsGrid, Tom Vecchio, joining us for the next little while to really bounce around. We'll do some baseball. We'll do some hockey. We'll do some NBA Finals as we're a little over an hour away from tip-off in that contest. Should be a lot of fun. Just to update you on some of the MLB scores. We'll work in some more baseball in a little bit. Philadelphia right now up 1-0 in Miami still off that Trey Turner home run. But runners at the corners for the Marlins with 2 out in the bottom of the first. So we need Mick Abel to get out of a jam here if you're back in Philly like I am and like I happen to know Tom is. Colorado still up 2-0 on that Hunter Goodman home run in Washington at the end of 2. So the Rockies going for their second straight win. Will be coming to bat in the third here in a moment. And the Angels already with a couple of men aboard top 1 in New York against the Yankees. That is underway. We have the Orioles and Rays getting started here shortly as well. Vecchio, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Like I said, I am also backing the Phillies. I also have both Mick Abel and Sandy on my fantasy team, the same team. So I need a lot of different things to happen in this game, but ultimately I want the Phillies money line to come through. A 1-0 Phillies win would be awesome for a lot of different reasons. I would obviously like to see my Yanks get back on track, but I'm ready for whatever right now.
All right, we'll get to some baseball in just a little bit. We'll give the viewers, the listeners, a little baseball break. We just did that with Rob. Let's go back to the NBA Finals. It is certainly the marquee event of the sports betting evening and sports viewing evening. The Oklahoma City Thunder looking for that 3-2 NBA Finals lead against the Indiana Pacers, who have been plucky and pesky and just, I mean, man, this has been an impressive display here in these finals compared to the people like me who thought the Thunder were going to roll in this thing, win it in maybe 5 or 6. Well, 6 is still on the table, but first OKC needs to take game 5. Do you like the Thunder to win tonight, and do you like them enough to lay 9.5?
Yes and no. That's the easy answer. I like them to win tonight, but I don't want to be laying 9.5. And I talked about this yesterday with you. I talked about it earlier this morning on the early line with Joe Ranieri and Donnie Rightside, where there's a reason that I could talk myself, or people theoretically, the proverbial you, could talk yourself into backing the Thunder. Right? They won by 7 points in the most recent game. And again, they shot 3 of 16 from deep in that game. The volume was low, but more importantly, the efficiency was terrible, right? So even if they had shot, let's call it 5 of 16, which just percentage-wise is terrible. All of a sudden, we had 6 points on that. Hang on. Now they're winning by 13 points. You add another free throw, whatever it might be. 13, 14, 15 points, they could have come away with the win. So we can find reasons to say, hey, the Thunder 9.5, they could have done that in the most recent game on the road. And now we're going to get that line at home for them where we know they've been pretty dominant. But at the same time, the Pacers have been playing much better defense than I think a lot of people anticipated. It really comes down to tonight for me is how much are the Pacers able to score? Because they play great defense and they still lost that game.
We had Danny Burke on with us earlier. He likes the team total over for Oklahoma City, but as you mentioned, the defense has been, certainly had its moments on both sides. It's contributed to going under in 3 out of the 4 games so far, and that is reflected in the total that we have. Gone is 230. We're looking at 223.5. Do you still go under and lean into that trend, or do you think this is the night where offense bounces back?
I'm still going under. I had 2 takes coming into the series. It was one, my favorite bet was over 5.5 games. And once we got to game 6, which is in line with the over 5.5 games, we would see a total at sub 220. And that kind of caught some people off guard. 228, we're seeing this. These 2 offenses that like to fly. And I'm like, that's just not going to be a trend that's going to be consistent in scoring. So 228 at the opening game, 228.5. We're down to 223 now. I just saw it move down from 224. If this falls under again, we are going to see the line open up at 221. It will be bet down to 220. That's what I'm anticipating. I think the Thunder cover the first quarter. They come out strong. The Pacers are an offense that have gotten better as games have gone on generally. So I think the Thunder can cover the first quarter. I think, frankly, it would be easy theoretically to play both sides of this game where you want to take the Pacers pregame at 9.5, or if it closes at 10, you could certainly get it there. And then if the Pacers start off strong, buy back in on the Thunder at -3, and you have a pretty good middle.
So I think an interesting thing, and it relates anyway to totals, is the Thunder have allowed only 67 points per game here in this series to opposing starters. And, or actually throughout the playoffs, I believe, fewest of any team, 42% shooting on the other side here. And so, between limiting transition points, forcing turnovers, just being, again, the defensive stalwarts that they were during the regular season and beyond, is this a situation where, I don't know, from a player prop perspective, you're looking more closely at OKC players or unders for Indiana starters?
So there's a couple different ways to go about this. I talked about it this morning with Joe and Donnie. I don't mind Alex Caruso, coming off the bench. I don't mind some points from him. If I would say, obviously, who's going to be doing the scoring? Because we talked about SGA's number, which was up at 34.5. Is it still? Yeah, it's still 34.5. I think that's way too high. I like Jalen Williams in terms of his potential production, but the 22.5 number is way too high. So I think he'll be the next player to score the most, but doesn't mean I want to be going to over 22.5. So it would go under on SGA. Caruso, I like the over 10.5. He's been hot. Now, obviously, the 2 20-point games is not exactly what I'm thinking he's going to be bringing tonight, but give me 12, 13 points. I think is certainly very capable. On the Indiana side of things, I think all of their starters, their points are where they should be. The Miles Turner line seems maybe a touch too high. The threes, I'd be a little bit worried about. I don't think that'd be an easy bet. I think it'd be sweaty, but it really comes down to Obi Toppin under 10.5 points as being one of my favorite bets for this entire game. 7 of 12 in the most recent game in Game 4. It's the second most field goal attempts he's taken, not just in this series, but in the entire playoffs. And he's not going to be shooting over 50%, especially on the road. So give me under 10.5 for Obi Toppin.
The one guy with those starters that I would trust, and it's not Tyrese Halliburton. I can't believe I'm saying this to you, given the number of times he's let us down personally, but Pascal Siakam. The only real reliable offensive success that Indiana has had in the series is when they lean on Siakam inside. Now, whether that's going over on points or maybe it's a combo play, points, rebounds, assists, because he had the 8 boards last time out. He can get the occasional assist. That number's sitting at 29.5. How do you feel about an over-under there?
I don't mind it. I know, yes, he has let us down personally, both a number of times, but maybe he was just saving it for the playoffs, saving it for the finals.
It'd be nice, right? We'll come on back. Much more with Tom Vecchio. By the way, 1-1 Phillies Marlins now, bottom 2 in Miami, and no score Angels Yankees. Hockey talk.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say I'd buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but yeah, it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I'd say I am happy to report on behalf of both Tom Vecchio and myself that the Phillies were able to escape a bases-loaded jam, and it's 1-1 going top 3 in Miami in that contest right now. Still 2-0 Rockies leading in Washington. Nats are batting bottom 3 and no score. Angels, Yankees in the Bronx. That one is only in the opening inning. We'll do some more baseball. Look ahead to tonight's games in a little bit. But Vecchio, let's work in some Stanley Cup final talk. I know there's no game tonight. We got to wait till tomorrow after the double day off, if you will, with the travel day going to Florida. Opportunity for the Panthers to make it 2 straight Stanley Cup wins. knocking off Edmonton both times, no less, if they can do this in Game 6 back in Sunrise. They are heavily favored, the Panthers, after that Game 5 win, right around minus 145. Do the Oilers just, I don't know, out of respect for Edmonton, do the Oilers at plus money, right around plus 120 to 125, feel like the value play, if you will?
So I talked about, again, this is something else I've been talking about. I think the play to make at this point, it would be to take Edmonton on the series price. This is if you think Edmonton can come back, because you don't want to play them at plus 122. You could play them there. But if you think they extend this series, that means that they'd be having home ice in Game 7. So it'd be taking them on a series price just because objectively you're getting a much higher number at 310 compared to plus 122. And then that leaves you a very nice potential hedge to just simply bet on the Panthers in Game 7 if that were to get there. So that's the way I would approach it. If you want to just take a single bet for this, I think the over is obviously a very easy way to go about things. I would continue to say that some of these games should not have been going over. The most recent game, notably, should not have gone over. It only ended 5-2 because it was an empty netter. And then one of those other games.
Well, and because there were 5 third-period goals.
Right. But also in Game 3, that was when the Panthers had 11 power play opportunities. So all that extra scoring provided. So I know we have seen overs the entire time, but if we subtract those 2 games, you'd be like, okay, we've seen a kind of even series back and forth, over, under. And it wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, we're just playing the over again tonight. Or tomorrow, I should say. So I don't mind the over just because if we do see the lack of defense or the lack of consistency from Stuart Skinner, who I think is going to be starting, we could easily see 3 goals in the first period combined. And then if the game opens up and they get extra scoring and the game ends 5-2 again.
Yeah, I mean, I like the over. I like the Oilers. I like that combo in Game 5. And, half right, but when it's a parlay, that doesn't do you any favors, obviously. In terms of this one, though, do we look at the prop market and lean into the best players for Edmonton? Of course, I'm talking about Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, maybe even Corey Perry has been so advantageous. Bouchard is firing shots on net with absurd regularity. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, just in terms of opportunity. Do we attack certain guys to either have a point, have multiple points, or, just shots on goal, figuring the Oilers' season literally on the line are going to be more aggressive?
So in theory, yes. I've always found playoff shot volume to be obviously volatile. It's not always the consistent players that average 3.5 shots, or consistently getting to that mark. It's just like, hey, we're rolling 4 lines because we have to. Anyone can get the shots on goal. So you could take the shots. All Draisaitl, Bouchard, and McDavid, they're all plus money for over 3.5. Again, these are 60-minute lines. If they're getting a ton of shots on goal, what does that mean? It means that Bobrovsky is probably making saves. So I talked about it last night. Bobrovsky over 27.5 saves. Like at that point, we are betting on the Oilers to take shots. We're not betting on a specific player. And granted, you're not getting the same odds. It's not like a plus 120 or whatever I'm seeing for some of these players. You have to lay the minus 112, but that is the same thing. You're just simply betting on the goalie to have the save because the Oilers have to get shots on goal. Their season is on the line.
So, for me, Tom, and I think, we're a little simpatico when it comes to something like this. I think most people's favorite aspect of betting is obviously winning bets, making money, like no kidding, right? For me, almost outweighing that in some ways is just putting the puzzle together and monitoring line movement and trying to figure it out. And, you just talk about Bobrovsky. We had you on with us last night. We were talking about how if you believe, let's say, Bobrovsky goes and has a shutout in Game 6, there's still that window that he could win the Conn Smythe, playoff MVP. And the odds at that point were 120-1 on FanDuel, an egregious number. And right now, it's 75-1. Nothing has happened. No game has been played. How do you feel about Bobrovsky? Is there, do you still, could you be tempted by that number?
I mean, yeah, I would be tempted by 75-1. I have a position on at 3.5-1 on him, but again, the extra day off does provide some clarity for the books, and maybe there's some credence to it that it is worth a spot.
Favorite there, if anyone's wondering, Sam Bennett minus 160, and then Brad Marchand, the mid-season acquisition about 4-1. More with Vecchio on the way.
dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here. He'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say I'd buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but yeah, it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We've got Tom Vecchio, one more segment. We have done the NBA Finals. We have done the Stanley Cup Final. But, oh, by the way, there's baseball. It's going on right now. There are more games tonight as well. No score changes since I last brought them up. But just to give them to you again, the Phillies and Marlins, third inning. It is 1-1. Philly a man aboard, though, so trying to get home that first 5 for both Tom and I. The Rockies are leading the Nationals 2-0 and have a man in scoring position top 4. That with 2 out, and the Angels and Yankees are scoreless. New York was threatening there in the bottom of the opening inning, couldn't scratch anything across, so we continue on. We also have the Orioles and Rays starting up momentarily, so why don't we just go right there, Tom? You have any lean on this one between Eflin and Pepio?
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. I'm inclined to look at the over just because I don't think these pitchers are very good. I know recent results from someone like Zach Eflin may indicate he's good, but it's super hot there. The rain should be holding off. It's obviously a great park for hitting and, described as a minor league park just because it doesn't have the stands protecting it. So I don't mind some scoring, especially with the Orioles offense. They've been playing significantly better, especially over the past few weeks, I would say 2-3 weeks, than they were at the beginning portion of the season. They were terrible. Obviously, the standings reflect that, but they are scoring some runs, and the Rays are coming off a huge, huge series sweep against the Mets. They're also scoring some runs. So I do like this spot for scoring. I'm inclined to simply fade these pitchers whenever they're on the mound. I just don't like them.
Now, speaking of great weather and leading to maybe great results, we were talking with Rob Donaldson earlier about the park adjustment from the books in Sacramento there, the 10.5 total, massive total, much bigger than we're used to seeing, obviously, there outside of Coors, really. And so we have the Athletics, the Astros, 10 still in some places. It's being bet down on FanDuel, as a matter of fact. Do you expect runs, knowing there's maybe a part of the factor is no McCullers anymore? It's Gusto on the mound for Houston.
Yeah, McCullers for the IL, like you said a little bit earlier today. I do like some runs. The fact that it's at a flat 10 now is always good. We can theoretically always get a push, which is good to see. It also leaves you that if it goes 5-5, it goes to extra innings, we automatically get a run across at some point. Therefore, we get the win. So I always like to bet flat numbers if I can when it comes to MLB. For this game specifically, yeah, I'm on board with some runs. This park is fantastic for run scoring. We saw it from really the jump of the season till now. There's a ton of scoring. The Astros offense is really, really heating up. I know they started off the season super slow, but they have been so much better. And the Athletics bullpen is terrible. It just is. And I know they came away with a very nice series sweep against the Royals over the weekend, but the Royals offense is doing nothing over the past 2 weeks, like literally not scoring, not hitting, not doing anything. So if you give me extra chances against a terrible Athletics bullpen, which recent results may indicate that they're okay, they're actually still bad, we get some runs tonight.
Shohei Ohtani is pitching for the first time since 2023 at home, albeit more of an opener situation against the Padres. Shohei, first off, I mean, would you even want to go near any of his pitching props, or do you just say, nah, like, we got to see what this looks like first, knowing that it's been so long that there wasn't even a minor league ramp up or anything?
Yeah, so this morning I talked about this on Newswire with Craig Mish. They have a special for it. I think it was, what is it, Ohtani for 3+ strikeouts. I think it's at plus 320.
Plus 320.
Yep. Yeah, 320. So, like, you have to know what you're buying into at that point. I would say put a much smaller unit on it. Do not put your normal unit size on it. Ohtani's only going to pitch 1 to 2 innings. You have to be like, hey, I'm in this first 2 innings. This is going to be a quick bet. It's like, the race to 15 in the NBA. To me, I think it's a fun bet to do just because it's so exciting to see a player out there on the mound and then go hit. I would say what we should be taking from tonight is more importantly the volume of pitches he has, like the actual pitch count, combined with what I think is more important, his velocity. Because if his velocity is strong, this is the starting point to then say we can consistently bet on a strikeout prop. So I know it's kind of a long-winded answer to say I like one thing tonight kind of just as a fun bet to have. But more importantly, looking forward, his velocity is the most important thing.
Dodgers win this game, or is this a spot to back the Padres not knowing what we're going to get out of Shohei?
I don't mind the Padres at plus money, especially with probably the public heavily in favor of the Dodgers. I don't mind taking a shot on the Padres.
All right, what about the Red Sox and Mariners? We Sam every 3 seconds is in my ear going, how about that Rafael Devers trade? He's just trying to get me going, the Red Sox fan that I am. But yeah, Devers, salary dump, right? I mean, the Red Sox unloaded that $250+ million remaining on the deal and a bad attitude, admittedly, and sent him off to San Francisco. The Giants, of course, are not playing tonight, but those Red Sox are. They went west without him, and they are in Seattle. Red Sox right around plus 150 with Lucas Giolito on the mound against Logan Gilbert. Gilbert, certainly the better pitcher, but I'm not sure he is any more likely than Giolito to twirl a gem tonight. And so where do we go here?
When it comes to this game, I think being on the Seattle side is the right side to be on. The Red Sox lineup is factually significantly weaker. Like there's no way around it. And you could say like, we could look to the future of what they're trying to do. Removing an all-star hitter from your lineup makes it weaker. That's just a fact. Now, and they haven't gotten anyone back to replace him. And you're saying, okay, well, they have these young prospects, like they want to increase their production and therefore take the spot that Devers fulfilled in that lineup. We haven't seen it yet because we haven't seen this lineup play. So I don't mind, as you know, backing the Mariners tonight. However, I will say on a night-to-night basis, if you're getting good plus money on someone like Jarren Duran, Roman Anthony for 2+ total bases, getting that at plus money, these are the players I expect to step up, especially once Bregman comes back, once he's healthy and ready to go. I'm actually have an interest in Red Sox player props in the short term because they do need someone to step up and fill that production.
I alluded earlier to putting the puzzle together and trying to read the market and getting the most value in a number and all of that. We're pretty close, couple weeks out from the trade deadline in Major League Baseball. Yeah. And there are some insiders, national insiders, that believe that the Red Sox do still believe in this team and do still think that they can contend, or at least put themselves in a position to contend, and are not punting on the season as a trade of Rafael Devers would indicate, that they could go out and acquire another big bat to come in and hit in the middle of this lineup. Maybe a first baseman. Rhys Hoskins has been a name that has been floated. I say all of that to say the win total for Boston right now is 81.5. It's a pick'em. -110, over or under. Is this a chance that it actually makes sense to go over?
I don't think so. And I don't think, especially just given the competitiveness in the AL East. If the Orioles were continuing to be terrible, the Rays are playing really good right now. And the Blue Jays, I think, are exceeding a lot of people's expectations, mine included. As I've talked about plenty of times on Pro Baseball Today with Donnie, like this is not a team that we expect to be good. It's so competitive, and there's just so many games remaining against these teams that they're barely 500, and they still don't have, that was when they had Devers. So, yes, they could go out and get a Rhys Hoskins, a player that would fill that need at first base, obviously with Casas being out. But I think the schedule is just too tough going forward for them. I think the offseason move of spending that salary that they just freed up, that is the most important thing. And if these rumors come to fruition that they are trying to trade Duran to potentially the Padres, you have to get top prospects back. They did not get a top prospect back for Devers going to the Giants, and then they just sent Kyle Harrison down to AAA.
You got junk back. If you were the Red Sox, nobody conceivably that could come in and help you now unless Harrison comes back up and Hicks, the two of them look like totally different pitchers than they have during their time with San Francisco this year. San Francisco, by the way, and we could show you some futures odds on them, making the playoffs, unlike the Red Sox where you're getting basically 2-1 plus money, it's practically that minus money, minus 176 on FanDuel for the Giants to make the postseason here in this going for it year, obviously, that they have sitting right behind the Dodgers. Is there a right way to invest in San Francisco?
It would be Dodgers versus Giants in the NLCS at 26-1, right? I'm not going to say beat them. You're not taking them to win a division. You're not taking them to win the NLCS, but Dodgers Giants in the NLCS is 26-1.
We've held Tom Vecchio hostage for the last 3 segments, but we are going to go and let him live his adult life. He is on Twitter, Tom_Vecchio and the number 1. Thanks, bud.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say I'd buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee's going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we are back. This is in-game live game day here on SportsGrid, or pardon me, Game Time Decisions. I'm so used to it being IGL. Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid, and we've got you for another 45 minutes. Head coach, I like to call him head. Got to add that. Head coach James Young is going to join us for the final half hour of the program and help us through a full Game 5 NBA Finals preview. Thunder and Pacers there in OKC. But as you know, we always love when this guy is on the grid, and he is practically every single day a host and analyst here as well. Maybe more of a host, but certainly a former bookmaker and a guy that knows these numbers as well as anybody. Dave Sharapan, the sportsbook consigliere, hopping on with us. And what do you got here? Dodgers? Yeah, you would be celebrating all things Shohei Ohtani tonight on the mound. Let's start there, my friend. What are the expectations for Shohei pitching for the first time since 2023?
So, first of all, great to see you. Second of all, the expectations are 1 inning, but maybe 2. And this is one of those times, I've said it now since the last time I was actually, practicing as an odds maker in the book. This is reason number 18 million why I'm glad I'm not in the book tonight, because K prop is 1.5. If he goes 2 innings, it's going over. If he goes 1 inning, it might go under. We don't know how many innings he's going to go. I think the number is intended to be 1 inning. There's fun props all over the place in different books with, will he have a strikeout and a home run? Will he have – I've never seen more anticipation, Adam, for an opener in the history of baseball. There's never been anything like this. The guy is that guy. It's fun. It's exciting. I'm not sure that I'd make the minus 150 or 155 over the Padres tonight, with knowing that they're getting a bullpen game after this. So that's what I looked at. Cease, it's probably going to end up being an overplay when you look at it.
So you just got me thinking about something, all the different funny ways that we could bet Shohei Ohtani. And I hadn't mentioned this yet. I hadn't even thought about this yet. But would you, we're not talking full units. We're not even talking like, we're talking about like funny money, like couple bucks, right?
Yeah.
Could you justify throwing just a little something, maybe a little 5 spot on Shohei to win the Cy Young? Because that number on FanDuel right now, because of course it's listed, right, is 250 to 1.
Geez, I don't know. It's June 16th. Is he going to get enough starts to get serious consideration for it? It might. I mean, it will be one of those fun ones that if he, comes back quick, and the Dodgers have such a decimated pitching staff that they're pushing him, and he wants to come back and start, that he's going to get opportunities. But say he comes back and wins 8 in a row, and starts to get in the mix. Now, that would mean that he would beat my guy Skeens, which I don't want to see.
Yep.
You could take the ride from 200 to 1 down to 50 to 1, down to 30 to 1, and then have a really cool ticket that doesn't pay. That could happen. I don't think he could win it, but that would be a funny money bet. I mean, you could bet that he's going to have an immaculate inning today. 9 pitches, 500 to 1. I'd rather do that. He's probably not going to do that. I would rather do 3 up, 3 down. That's available in different places, and that's actually an affordable price. I don't think he gives up a hit, right?
I was thinking about your boy Skeens there, because he did win the Cy Young last year. And when did he start? So I had to pull up the game log. So his first major league start, obviously the first one last year, was May 11th. So he had about a month edge on what Shohei is coming in with right now. And of course, very different. He was out of the chute at least 4 innings anyway, and Shohei is in this opener situation for who knows how long it's going to take them to stretch him out, because as we've talked about here on the show, it's not like there's been any minor league ramp up to this. So, he's good. He goes between, depending on the pitch count, 1 and 3 innings tonight. It's probably 1 or 2, not 3. And, it could be a month and a half before he's throwing, 7 innings in a game. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So we don't know exactly what this thing is going to look like. But the combo of like get a strikeout and hit a home run, that type of bet, that would be a lot of fun for sure. While we're on baseball, and I know, we've got you for a couple segments, the big stories obviously are what's happening at the championship level sports, our winter sports here in the early spot of summer basketball and hockey. But anything else on the diamond that draws your attention tonight?
I'm on the Phillies and the under. We'll see how that works out. I got Tampa against Baltimore. Those both teams are playing really well, and the under there. What about these these Mariners being such a big favorite over the Red Sox. That
Hmm.
I mean, Gilbert's just coming back. This is his first start
Right.
back. And everybody's woe is me. The Red Sox traded away Rafael Devers. They certainly aren't going to play. They're going to go out to the West Coast. They're going to go 1-8 on the trip. I think they're live with Giolito tonight to actually win the game. This would be a perfect spot to back the Red Sox. And then tonight, I think Cease and the Dodgers, Padres and Dodgers goes over. But that's where I'm at with the baseball. What'd you think of the Devers trade?
So I have a lot of emotions about it. We don't have nearly enough time to unpack all of them. I would need a therapist for that. But ultimately, as I tweeted out in short, I'm, disappointed in the lack of a return and that there's this feel of ownership in the front office for the Red Sox once again screaming at their loyal fans that they don't believe in building a team seriously, and that's just disgusting for a big market team. But in terms of Devers, if we're just looking at the human, I'm not disappointed he's gone. This isn't like moving Mookie Betts. This isn't like moving on from Xander Bogaerts.
Wow.
Devers is he's a good player. He's one of the best hitters in baseball. Not average, but power and production, obviously RBI, OPS, all of that. I know a lot of people don't care about average anymore anyway, but not a team first guy. Even David Ortiz, who's kind of sort of part of the Red Sox front office now, an ambassador, was dumping on Devers a little bit on social media earlier, saying that, you got to put your ego aside. And he just didn't do that when it came to multiple opportunities to sort of move around the field and help the team out. So, look, they need to replace him. To quote, Billy Bean in Moneyball, right? You got to replace him in the aggregate and get someone in there that can give you that production. More with Sheriff when we come back. We'll get to the basketball game tonight. It's a big one.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say I'd buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee is going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Sharapan back with us here again, the Sportsbook Consigliere. Get him on Twitter at SportsBKConsig. We'll get to the NBA Finals in just a second. Huge game tonight. Dave, I was just thinking during the break, people who watch you here on the grid, they know, they see all the hats, they see all the jerseys. But what I'm wondering is, do you have the matching hat jersey combo for basically every team that is in your closet?
No, there are certain teams that I do not have anything of. One of them being, yeah, probably I don't have anything Washington Nationals. That's true. I was just thinking about that, but Sam and my ear said it. I don't have a Pacers anything. I never really did. I don't have a single thing of Indiana Pacers, and if they win, I'll get something. But up to this point, I don't. I've rooted for them in the past, and I don't have anything of them. No, Adam, I don't.
Does that mean you have something for the Thunder?
Oh, I have it right here. Yeah, I have a Thunder hat right here.
Oh,
Just in case
looks
we
good.
need it. Yeah, this
That's
is one
nice.
of them. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a
not bad.
big bold OKC. Is that the team that you are backing tonight, even to the point that you would lay the 9.5?
I'm not comfortable laying a point spread, to be perfectly honest. This is a number that I know why it's this. Because if you make it anything at 8 or less, it's an automatic, limit play from bad guys. If you make it 10 or more, it's an automatic limit play from bad guys on the dog. So you sit at 9.5, and this thing has sat. I can't remember the last time they played. I think it was what? Friday? Saturday?
2 days ago.
It's
Friday.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
3 days
So,
ago.
right. This line has just been sitting, waiting for somebody to bet it or move it, and you don't have to. So OKC wins tonight. Yes. Money line, good. I'm not sure they cover. I really don't know. I'll probably, as we're watching it in game with me and Wetzel, we'll probably make a play on it in game, looking to lay 4 or less with OKC. Probably have a sweat. I think the best bet in the game, Adam, is OKC in the first half. I think they play well and lead at halftime.
And that's -5.5. What about first quarter -3.5? Is that too short a window to, you want the full half to sort of play itself out? Or, could you get behind the Thunder at home, behind that crowd, and the urgency of wanting to go up 3-2 to back them early?
Yeah, I like the first half a little more because you have a little more time, but the first quarter bet is probably good too if it's less than 4, 3.5 or less. That 4 leaves you a push opportunity, but yeah, I think OKC starts much better this game than they have. Where I'm not saying that I don't know. I think it's going to take a bit for Indiana to get going. That was such a letdown the way they lost that game and the way they didn't cover. I mean, a lot of people had Indiana last game and didn't cover, left with a bad taste in their mouth.
Anything on the prop market that stands out to you? Is there that, 1 or 2 guys that you'd really lean in on tonight?
Chet to have a good game. Depending on what what you're comfortable with, if you want to do the PRA, like the kids like to say, or just his points, different things there. And TJ McConnell is from the town next to me in Pittsburgh originally. A big fan of his as a Pittsburgh guy. Another Yinzer, yes. And his production when he plays, I think he goes over. I think, what is his, 10.5? Something like that for his points and maybe points and assists. I forget what the number is. But I think he has a good game for Indiana, and I think Chet has a good game. Obviously, SGA points. Last game, the SGA points was a real sweat. I mean, that number came down in game. I think he had 12 points in the first quarter or first half and then lit it up and somehow got to 35 because he scored all those points at the end. I like him to have a big game again scoring-wise. At home, feed him the ball. OKC wins between 8 and 12 or 13 points tonight.
McConnell, 10.5 points assist, by the way. I just pulled it up on FanDuel for you. Yeah, I think, and you just alluded to this. You talked about, you think you and Wetzel, you might be waiting for that in-game number, lay OKC -4.5. I'm on the other side, like-minded, but I'm on the other side, meaning I don't want to take the Pacers pregame at 9.5. That number's not large enough for me. But if OKC gets out to a strong start, as I believe they will, and as clearly you believe they will, and I can get the Pacers at 16.5, something like that,
good number.
I'd happily jump in on that. happily jump in on that. I think we're going to get a game that they don't totally evaporate and get destroyed. Sharapan's going to be on with Scott Wetzel coming up in a half hour, so go nowhere. Hang out on the grid. Thanks, Dave.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say I'd buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee is going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Things that both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but yeah, it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
And Danny Burke, we have had Rob Donaldson, we have had Tom Vecchio, we have had Dave Sharapan, who's coming up next with Scott Wetzel, 8:30 Eastern, a half hour from now for 90 minutes, talking all things NBA Finals and sweating that thing out. But we got to get into an extensive, deep dive preview of Game 5 in Oklahoma City between the Thunder and the Pacers. It's 2-2. It's now a best of 3, and the Thunder, of course, the overwhelming favorites to win this series, just as they were when it began. A special extended edition of Game Time Decisions. I am Adam Kaufman, welcoming in for the next half hour, the coach, James Young. He is on Twitter at CoachYoungNJ. Coach, how you doing, bud?
AK, it's good to be on with you. We don't need Tyrese Halliburton because you're TJ McConnell and you're running the point, brother. Good to be on with you.
We tired of waiting around for this game to come along? I mean, obviously the 2-day break with the travel, I get it, but it's time for tip-off. And so the Thunder, this has been one of the big talking points tonight. Opened at 9, now it's 9.5, laying nearly double figures. That's what you're looking for them to win by if you want to invest in OKC at home, where they have more often than not been winning by margin. However, just to reset a couple of the thoughts that I gave earlier in terms of the stats, the Pacers 5-0 straight up and against the spread off a loss these playoffs, and 7-3 on the road overall. Indiana's a pesky, frisky team, Coach. Do they hang around in this one?
I think they do hang around. And real quick, I don't know why we showed Shohei Ohtani, but I guess the guy's pitching tonight. Shohei Ohtani hit a home run.
Is that a big deal?
It is kind of a big deal. Shohei hit a home run, maybe get 3+ strikeouts, plus 320. That's a story for another day.
Wow.
Anyway, when it comes down to tonight, it's so interesting, Adam, because you got to be careful. Because every time that we think the Pacers are left for dead, they come back. It's a different animal now. and I heard you talking with Dave just before, and I think you guys are both right. Like, you got one or two ways to play it, and you can zigzag this way all the way through. If the Thunder get out to a big lead, particularly early in the first quarter, you could see Indiana making a run with that second group, right? With Mathurin, with McConnell, with Obi Toppin, because they've had their moments. And let's be honest, one of my better bets is Nembhard to go under his points because he struggles, and then they have to bring in Benedict Mathurin to score. So that's leaning into your play of slow start, jump on.
Yep.
The other part is if that happens, you can see this line drop when Indiana makes a run because they do make runs because they're propensity to hit the three-point shot. But Oklahoma City is particularly good in the second half. And I think they may have unlocked something in the fourth quarter of like enough of the, you know what, like we got to get this kid the ball and get out of the way. So I think there is a case, okay? There is a case where you can play both of your angles and maybe hit a middle at some point with, you know, something with like you said, a plus 16.5 for Indiana. And then maybe you get OKC like a minus 4.5 and you got a nice middle right there. You may be able to knock them both out of the park because I, like Dave, I see that like 7 to 11 point sweet spot. So that's why I think that's a good opportunity in the middle. This is a game that I think you play live. Unless you think Indiana's going to win, like then you jump on them money line plus the points early before the game. Otherwise, you gotta let this thing flow. This is a game 5, and I think this is the most critical game for Indiana because can I see OKC if they lost game 5, win 6 on the road, 7 at home? Yes. Can I see Indiana, you know, losing game 5 and winning 6 and 7? The answer is no, because they'll lose game 7 on the road.
So I completely agree with everything you're saying in terms of there being that potential wide middle there between the Thunder and the Pacers. And I agree. I think live betting this game as opposed to pre-flop is the way to go. I don't want to get involved in the 9.5. The number is too efficient. Big surprise on the part of the books for me to want to get involved. We do have the official starting lineups for both of these teams. No shocks, but just to read them off. For the Pacers, Halliburton, Nembhard, Nesmith, Siakam, Turner. And for the Thunder, it is SGA, Dort, Jalen Williams, Holmgren, and Hartenstein. And so that means, once again, we got the double bigs out of Mark Daignault between Hartenstein as well as Chet Holmgren. And so does that impact, I'm sure it was expected on your part, but obviously it took Daignault a little while to finally go back to it, as he did last game, had so much success earlier on in this postseason. Does it impact the way you view this game in any way early on, or maybe rebound props?
Well, I think the interesting thing with this is I'm going to be honest with you. I thought it was an incredible mistake by Mark Daignault to change the lineup and go with Kason Wallace in the starting lineup versus Hartenstein for a number of reasons. Number one, you play to your strength, not to what you think the other team's strength is. You do what got you there, right? So the double big lineup of Hartenstein along with Chet Holmgren is extremely dynamic in what they can do, particularly for Chet, because it allows him to be that weak side shot blocker, weak side rebounder, a la like a Jaren Jackson Jr., right? Just like a Jaren Jackson Jr., he can't defend the point of attack, meaning at the rim as a center. So I thought that was important to get him back to where he needs to be. With that double big lineup, an interesting play I'm going to look at now is over 1.5 assists for Isaiah Hartenstein. They like to go high pick and roll with SGA, hit him in what we call the short roll. You know what that is, right at the elbow, one dribble, and then they try to send Chet on a backdoor lob for an alley-oop. Hartenstein is a very, very adept passer. I know he was awful in game number 4, but to me, I know it's major juice at minus 154 on FanDuel, but I would take Isaiah Hartenstein to get over 1.5 assists. If you can find another book that can give you 3+ assists and not 4, I would look at that at Hartenstein as well because that should be plus money.
And he had 3 in 21 minutes in that last game. A very willing passer facilitator. Absolutely. As far as the rebounds go, you know, that was one of the big edges among few, quite frankly, for Oklahoma City in that most recent comeback win. They controlled the glass by roughly 10, and Holmgren was a huge part of it. Played 37 minutes in this game, had 15 rebounds. You look at his prop tonight, Coach, and it's 9.5 is the number. And if you want to go over, you want to hit that 10 plus on Holmgren, you're getting plus money on it as well. So the books are basically daring you. They're saying he's not going to do what he just did again. Do you feel differently?
I have concern that maybe he may not get to 10. Maybe you alter to 8 and you kind of play around with other things and put it into a parlay if you want to. But I'm going to go the other way, and that's Miles Turner, who was another guy that wasn't great. I mean, sometimes these bigs I don't get, right? 6'10", 6'11", athletic as you know what. His rebounding prop is 4.5. I know it's minus 142, but god dang it, you can't get me 5, rebounds at nearly 7 feet tall guarding Hartenstein. And if they're going to if I don't think Chet's going to get me 12, 14, 16 rebounds, which I don't, then you got to look at who is going to be the other people that can be the beneficiaries of it. I think it's going to be a concern to keep him off the boards. So I like Miles Turner over 4.5 rebounds.
We got a lot more coming up with Coach on GTG as we will be looking, or GTD, I should say, as we look around all things Game 5 NBA Finals between the Thunder and the Pacers. We'll get into some more player props, get Coach's thoughts on the total, the plummeting total in this one. We can talk about some other things going on around the league as well. Where will Kevin Durant land next? We think we at least have a wish list. We'll see. We'll return here on the grid after this.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
It's Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. Adam Kaufman, the coach, James Young. We're hanging out looking ahead to Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Starts within the next half hour. Coach, we both like the Thunder. It's just a function of how much do they win by. But what do the points look like in this game? Gone are the 230s, even 228s in terms of totals. 223 and a half, 224 is available out there as well as far as the full game total in this contest. Some have said team totals. That's the way to go. That's more comfortable than approaching the full game total in this one. But where do you lean as this thing has fallen game by game?
I think this is going to be a close game for the majority of it. Maybe a pull away by Oklahoma City late. That's why I do like, my case, I like the game to go over. When I was on with Kevin and we did the pregame show for game 4, we said it. We both thought under, and if it went under, we were going over the next game because at some point the offense was going to open up. It opened up in pockets and spots. It just didn't get all the way there, particularly Indiana struggling in the fourth quarter. So to me, I think this game goes up and over the total. I think we get over to 230. I think if I'm Rick Carlisle, I'm going to try and push the pace a little bit, try and get this game a little bit more up and down because Oklahoma City is really good once they get their defense set. So I'm not saying that you could see guys like Obi Toppin and Pascal Siakam leak out for layup opportunities, fast break opportunities, which will then open up offensive rebounding capabilities for Oklahoma City. I think this game goes over. I don't mind people saying, hey, maybe Oklahoma City over to 116.5. I just think that Indiana's going to be right there with them for the majority of the game. And even we get a case of, even if you got Oklahoma City, you get you to, let's just say 125 points. When you get 100 with Indiana, you're up and over the number. So now that it's plummeting, and now it just dropped to 223 just now as we speak on FanDuel, I'm liking it more and more. Keep coming down. If I can get it down to 225.5, let it come down. I'm taking the over right before tip-off.
So, Coach, 125, I'm not saying it can't happen, obviously, but that's a big number. If you're thinking about that, it's a way to sort of rationalize going over with the full game. Wouldn't you rather just attack the Thunder? Their team total is 115.5, albeit juiced to minus 120. But why not just go over there? That's, a much easier pill to swallow, I would think, than saying we need another 10 on top of that.
Well, that comes down to the point where if the game is really close and Nate only gets you like 114 and it's a one-possession game, we have foul stop late in the game, then Indiana can help get you up and over it. The other reason why I don't have a problem with taking, if it's 125, is Indiana's had, I think, 2 games all postseason where they've gone under 100 points. If I think Indiana's going to run, I think they're good. The points are going to be there on their end. So then at that point, I can have both sides, and even if we get some kind of crazy Indiana win, or whatever, and Oklahoma City struggles a little bit, Indiana's pace is going to dictate that this goes up and over the number. So rather put those two together. If it was something where it was like 228.5, 229.5, yeah, then maybe I would just take Oklahoma City. But now that I got like that extra 5-6 points, I'm not afraid to combine and put them together.
Let me take you back to the player prop market, and let's start with Indiana here, specifically Pascal Siakam. He is probably the starter in terms of overs that interests me the most, knowing that obviously he can fill out the box score. Last game, he had 20 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and that was while really disappearing in the fourth quarter of that game. You can get him now, PRA 29.5. Would you go over?
You know what? It's interesting. I am going to take a different approach to Pascal Siakam. And I think what I'm looking at is his first quarter prop. His first quarter prop is over 4.5 at minus 138. He was not good in game number 4, and he wasn't good to start in game number 3. I think it's imperative on the road that if your ancillary guys, right, your Naismiths, your others, Nembards are going to struggle early on. It's imperative that both Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton get going early. I like them both to go over 4.5 points. Pascal at minus 138, Halliburton at plus 124, and then you can kind of look around when you get close to game time. They've done a good job, Adam, on FanDuel of hanging stuff for the first quarter, game specials, quarter specials. That will be something I'll be really interested in. Is can I get myself before the game like a 10 plus points in the first quarter for both of them together because I think it's imperative for Indiana that they have to get off to a good start to kind of get the team going.
Coach, in Indy, we saw guys like McConnell, you mentioned him before, Toppin obviously had some great moments, Matherin, the 27 and 22 minutes, and some of these other guys, these ancillary guys that you mentioned, even among starters who are more role players than they are stars, have really big games, and that's the whole narrative of this time of the year, especially role players show out in home games. Well, these guys are now going on the road. And so if we're looking at the flip side of that with OKC, is tonight the night that we really lean into Alex Caruso to go over 10.5 points or some combination of PRA and have a great game? Do we look at Lou Dort to get into double figures in scoring? Do we get some contribution off the bench out of, Aaron Wiggins? I mean, where would you look among the non-stars for OKC?
You went right where I was hoping you were going to go next, and that's the Dortcher chamber, and that's Lou Dort. I took him before the series for most made threes at 5-1. He's right there in it. And he's alternated great, bad, great, bad. And that's been great, bad, great, bad. It's been great, not a lot of shot attempts, great, not a lot of shot attempts. Only 3 shot attempts in games 2 and game 4. Remember after game number 1, game number 2, he was cold, took only 3 shots. He had 3 threes in the first quarter. Lou Dort over 1.5 made threes, or go over 8.5 points. And if I don't blame you, go 10 plus points, all on plus money.
Either team, Coach, who you fading tonight?
Who am I fading? I mean, if there's a game that can get away from someone, I think it's Indiana that you can fade. Ryan Nembhard, I'm fading him because I just think that offensively he's not going to be able to do it. It'll be interesting to see what Benedict Matherin does because Benedict Matherin's giving you big, big moments, but he's giving you some bad moments. But Nembhard, I think he's going to struggle. I wouldn't be surprised if the FGA gets him in that free throw merchant, problem. He'll be in foul trouble. He'll be out of the game early.
All right, we're going to come back with Coach James Young. A lot more on this game and news and notes around the league as well here on Game Time Decisions on the Grid. Go nowhere.
Dialing it back to his old days with St. Louis and Arizona. Buy or sell, Goldie will finish top 7 in fantasy first baseman.
No, I'm going to say no. I think he'll fall off. Older player here, he'll be top 10, but not top 7 here. Top 10, I would say I buy it. Top 7, I'm going to say no here. I think he'll put up decent numbers here. Not as good as he was. I don't think he's going to bat 340, 350 all year long.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm with you in that you're going to have to take calculated risks. And that's what Leon Rose has been about since he's been here. And he's been measured. He hasn't been gung-ho in terms of mortgaging this franchise's future for immediate gains. They have had a prudent approach, and you're going to have to roll the dice in certain respects to get to that top level. And you're right, Donnie, when you look at next season, all things considered, you hope that they're healthy, and if they roll over, say, 85 to 90% of this roster, this is a top 3 team in the East. With Boston coming down, Milwaukee is going to come down, and so you have to figure it's going to be Indiana, the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers in some sort of order in the preseason rankings. And so where they go from here, Jason Kidd is obviously the hot name right now. Both sides are interested from what we've heard in terms of Kidd and the New York Knicks. Is he that championship caliber coach to take the Knicks there?
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Every 5 days, it's really exciting when Skeens pitches, and it's terrible watching him pitch because every time he pitches, they don't score.
Having him hit the lineup probably would actually help when he pitches. There's no way to do it because you can't, but yeah, it's beyond frustrating. And the numbers will tell you, the books have adjusted.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We got game 5 on the way. NBA Finals, Thunder and Pacers. Coach James Young hanging out here. We will get into some favorite plays, best bets, all of that good stuff. But first, before we run out of time, I want to make sure we sprinkle some of the news in from around the league. None bigger, no disrespect intended to, Desmond Bane and his move to Orlando, but none bigger than the drama that always surrounds Kevin Durant, especially, Coach, in recent years. He's going to be moving on from yet another team, this time the Phoenix Suns, and we have seen various reports from national insiders, Shams Charania and Mark Spears, to name a couple. So just some of the news and notes is that he is, most interested in a long-term extension with the Heat, the Spurs, or the Rockets, has no interest in Minnesota, and the Knicks have no interest, apparently, in bringing in Kevin Durant. That's per Mark Spears just a couple hours ago. So let's just say that we can lean into Miami, San Antonio, and Houston and say that's true. And there are some people, by the way, saying he really wants to come to Boston. I don't know if that's financially plausible, but I'll throw that out as well, Coach. What do you think is the best outcome for Kevin Durant? Never mind what obviously Phoenix could potentially get in return.
Honestly, it's none of the three teams that are his preferred destination, because if you're thinking about it, number one, he's on an expiring contract of roughly $51 million. Any team that takes him will be nuts to give up a trove of draft picks and players, even though he's effective. I know he's going to sign a long-term extension, but this is a guy that health is starting to become a little bit of an issue. So if you go take the three teams in order and say least to first in regards to if they should make the trade, number 3 is San Antonio, because they haven't even made the playoffs yet. They're not even in that discussion yet. And there's already talks that obviously Phoenix is going to want Jeremy Sohan or Stephon Castle in the trade, and that'd be a hard no for me. You could take Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell and the scrap heap, and they'll call it a day. Second would be Miami, because I think Miami is a far way off. Who are you going to have to include the trade to match up money-wise? You're probably looking at Tyler Hero or Bam. Not going to move any more than them. Duncan Robinson, you can't trade him for a bag of basketballs, even though I loved watching him play at Williams College over there in Massachusetts. You didn't know that he went to school up there in your neck of the woods up in Williamstown. But to me, the most one that makes the most sense is Houston, because they're the closest team to the window. They have the draft picks and they have the young players that could be suitable. Would you move Reed Shepard? Would you move Jalen Green? Would you move Jabari Smith? Would you move Cam Whitmore? Right? You could move those guys. But to me, I have this feeling that it's going to be a big market team that's close. Knicks, you said Boston. I wouldn't be shocked if they came out of nowhere, because if you're going in on Kevin Durant, forget the extension, AK. You're looking at a 2-year window, 26, 27. If you're not ready to win a championship in those 2 years, it makes no damn sense to make the trade. That's why for all three of those teams, I really don't think it makes sense for any of them at all.
The Memphis Grizzlies have sent Desmond Bane, a key role player there, not a star per se, but a key role player there, to the Orlando Magic, and we have seen championship odds for these two teams changed dramatically. Magic, cut in half from the vicinity of plus 5,000 to plus 2,500. The Grizzlies the other way, plus 5,000, doubling to 100 to 1. There are a lot of people who understandably look at the East, with Boston dealing with injuries, no Jason Tatum next year, presumably, as wide the heck open, Coach. And so what does that mean for Orlando tacking on Bane with Banchero and Wagner?
Well, they're a young core, so it makes sense. So that's a team that's trying to make that move and take the next step, right? And Desmond Bane you'll have for a long time. Obviously, you get Suggs back from injury. Bane, what is their weakness, Orlando? It's three-point shooting. Then you have your front court of Wendell Carter Jr., Banchero, and Wagner. I think Wendell Carter Jr. has got to be more rugged rebounder, in my humble opinion. For Memphis, blow it up. It's done. This is not – I think there's another move. I think as Jaren Jackson Jr. gets moved, you can't move Ja, because one is popularity in Memphis, but two, more importantly, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. can actually get you more on the trade block based on this year. I know we got the NBA Finals coming up. I'll run through my plays real quick. I'm taking over. It's at 222.5. Just drop the other half a point. Get in. Lou Dort over 1.5 made threes. Miles Turner over his rebounds. I'm going all over the place. I got so many picks, I don't even know where I'm going. I do think that Nembhard goes under his props tonight of scoring. And then I think SGA, here's the thing. If I am Carlisle, I make him pass. 0 assists last game, over 6.5 tonight.
All right, my man, James Young, Coach Young NJ on Twitter. Want to thank all the guests that were part of this show here on Game Time Decisions. Of course, Sam, Kofsky, everyone involved behind the scenes. You got Sharapan and Wetzel coming up next. I'll join them in about a half hour. I'm at